It is Halloween, October 31, 2002, and I'm talking by telephone to Shay Quillen, formerly of Rounder Records.
Hello?
Hello, Shay. Michael. It's Michael Scully in Texas.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Are you up for this?
I'm ready to go, yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Did you have a good time on your sojourn to Nashville?
Yeah, I didn't make it up to IBMA, but I had fun in Nashville. Saw a couple old Rounder folks, saw Brad Sandvarden and Leslie Ruffet.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were going to go over to IBMA.
I thought about it, but I didn't make it.
Didn't want to go over there. Okay. Well, let's, what I have kind of two very, very broad things in mind. One, of course, is that I want to situate you within the company, finding out, when you work there and exactly what you did and what that was like day to day and stuff like that. And I guess the bigger thing that I want to do is you worked there through much of the 90s, right? Left in 99?
Yeah, 93 to 99.
Okay. I mean, that, seems to be a period of a lot of flux. I want to kind of talk about changes, if you saw any, in corporate culture during that time.
Oh, sure,
And okay, so why don't we those are my big areas, with the second one being, I guess, a more important use of your time, for me at least. So you were there from 93 to 99?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And you're a musician yourself, right? I'm wondering what your background is. I don't know if you're
I'm not a good musician.
Casual musician?
Yeah, I mean, we had a little group in college, my buddies and I played.
Uh-huh. But it wasn't something that you pursued as a career of your own, I take it?
Not really. The summer after college, we got the band together and we tried to play for a while, but it was pretty weak. We got 2 gigs. I think we ended up we got fined more for putting up flyers illegally than we made playing.
What kind of band was it?
Kind of Beatles influenced rock band.
Okay.
That's one of the interesting things about Round, is that we were all rock and roll people mostly. It wasn't like a bunch of banjo pickers.
Right. Well, how did you end up hooking up with Rounder? Why don't you go back to that?
I moved up after I graduated college in '92, and then at the end of the summer '93, the little excursion with our rock band didn't work out, so Buddy and I moved to Boston and just got a job waiting tables. And actually, I bought a copy of Have Moisty. Do you know that record?
Yeah.
I bought a copy of that and read the address off the back and saw it was just 15 blocks from where I lived. So I was living in Somerville, so I walked over there my day off from the restaurant and got an interview with Pete Weatherby, the warehouse manager, and he hired me. I started picking orders for minimum wage and working the restaurant at night, which you had to do to make a living on the wages that they paid in the warehouse.
Right. Let me just defer. I think I made this clear from the email, but I am taping this. Is that okay with you?
Oh, sure.
Okay, fine. All right. So you were literally making minimum wage to pick orders?
I believe so. Yeah.
But close enough to it.
Yeah, it's $4 something an hour, I think.
Right. Okay. And you just these were I guess catalog orders, right? Or were these orders by retailers?
Well, at that point, we still had the distribution company.
Okay.
So, they were mainly shipping orders to
retail?
Retailers.
Right, okay. Okay, and so you hadn't heard of Rounder before that, I gather, before looking at that album?
No, I certainly knew of Rounder. I think I vaguely, when I was in college, I vaguely thought about working on record labels, and I think I'd sent a letter to Rounder and Reich on some other labels. So I knew about Rounder. I mean, I was an NRBQ fan.
Okay.
I knew Alison Krauss, but I certainly wasn't super knowledgeable about it.
Okay. And did you move on eventually? I gather you moved on eventually from picking orders in the warehouse.
Yeah, I guess I started right around Thanksgiving in '93, and then early '94, by like March or so, I interviewed with Brad Paul and got hired for the radio promotion job.
Okay, and what did you do there specifically? What was first of all, did you work in any particular genres, and then what did you do, and what was your day like?
At first, I did pretty much all kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie Ruffet was still around. She was sort of working on a part-time basis. They'd hire her for projects. She'd come in, and she was doing more commercial AAA radio and things like that.
Okay.
I pretty much did everything else.
Uh-huh.
At that point, there was no special blues person or anything, so I did blues, bluegrass, rock, called country stations when we had to. I did everything. So
And what would that entail? What you'd go in and what would you do all day?
I'd go in around 9:30 or 10.
Uh-huh.
And I guess the main thing I'd look to do would be make phone calls around, the more important tours that were going on.
Okay.
Rory Block or Vance Gilbert or somebody would be touring around the country, and so I'd have their little tour itinerary in front of me. I'd be calling, 3 or 4 weeks ahead to the stations in those towns.
Okay.
And trying to set up radio interviews.
All right.
For the artists who could be counted on to show up and do the radio interviews.
Okay.
And making sure they had a CD and trying to get them to play it and give them CDs to give away and inviting the DJs and the music directors out to the show, putting them on the guest list.
And was that done pretty diligently with all of Rounder's touring artists, or?
Oh no, there's certainly no way to do all of them.
Uh-huh.
I mean, one thing about Rounder, we always had way too many records out at any one time.
Right.
And lots of artists touring. But yeah, certainly. But there's certain big ones you have to make calls for every show, and that's really important. And then while you had those people on the phone, you could try to mention the Bruce Dagrapons and the
the
smaller priority artists who certainly myself, I certainly wanted as much as possible to support them too, but just didn't have time to do everybody, so you did what you could.
How are the priorities set? I'm real interested in that process. How would Rounder decide? Because I've heard a lot of people say Rounder has too many artists, including artists. So I'm really. And the ones that seem to be most satisfied with the company are ones with fairly low expectations. So I'm really interested in how that process of prioritizing took place.
I mean, Brad Paul would be the best person maybe to talk to about that.
Okay. Did you sit in on meetings in which that was discussed, or were you just told which guys to push?
It was always pretty clear who was the priority and who was supposed to be pushed. Definitely people with new records out.
Okay.
People who were touring.
Okay.
And beyond that, it just sort of, it was sort of known, Bill Morris, he was someone who was important.
Right.
And then some, again, I just mentioned Bruce Dagrapon, someone who doesn't really tour, who's just playing,
right.
in Mamou and Lafayette and New Orleans.
Right.
We'd make a few calls to WWOZ in New Orleans and a few stations like that, but we wouldn't make a big deal out of it.
Sure, okay. Did you sit in on meetings in which it was discussed how to market certain items, or was that just sort of left over folks?
Somewhat. It was always sort of, I don't know, every year we'd have, meetings, and all the rank and file, all of us people on the phones would say, we need to be more involved ahead of time and know what's going on, know what the priorities are, and know what, they'd try. They'd have a couple meetings where they'd bring us all in and they'd play a few tunes off an upcoming record and talk about it. The sponsor of the album would come down and talk about it, but it never became a routine thing. Usually we were just sort of making up as we went.
It was pretty haphazard. Okay. Who else was involved? And I don't know if I need people's names. I know Brad was in charge of overall radio. Were there other people going back to say 93, 94 who would focus on advertising, who would focus on marketing in some different kind of sense? I don't know. People who looked at print ads.
Susan Piper was running that whole side.
Right, and I talked to her at some length, yeah.
And Michael Dunford was involved with that.
And I've interviewed him, okay.
You have or not?
I have.
Yeah, he's a guy to talk to and everything. And,
okay. Okay, so I've gotten those perspectives.
Jennifer Rassler was starting out right about then.
I don't know.
JJ's wife. Do you know JJ?
I know JJ, yeah. I've never interviewed JJ. I've met him at events a lot and sort of had dinner with him and drank with him and stuff. I like him a lot, but I've never sat down and...
I don't think he'd be too open, probably.
I don't think he would. He's very tied into to the company. He's very, he travels with Ken a lot. I just don't think he could be.
No.
Well, I got a kind of feeling. Now, did you do that throughout until you left in '99? Was that your job?
Yeah, basically. And then about halfway through, they brought in John Kane. And he took over the blues and R&B, that sort of side of things, and jazz, which I don't know much about.
Right.
And let me focus on the bluegrass and folk and rock, which worked out pretty well.
Yeah, because when you started, Bullseye was already a going concern. I mean, they already had blues records, but they had specifically started a label as well.
Right.
Before that, but it was still...
Blacktop at that point also.
Right, and it was still just thrown into the mix, at least early on.
Yeah, so I did everything. And that was one of the weird things about the job. You'd be talking, about Cuban music, and then the next phone call would be blues, the next one would be rock, next one would be country, so it was an awful lot to get a hold of.
Right, right. And did you how'd you learn about these genres of music? I mean, if it wasn't your background, I assume you'd have to learn something.
Yeah,
But
I really dived into bluegrass completely. I went to every festival I could and hung out around Ken as much as I could, and read Bluegrass Unlimited, and
okay,
I got Neil Rosenberg's book and
right,
Robert Cantwell's book. And I
okay,
so that happened pretty fast. I got you go to IBMA a couple times and you get totally immersed in it for
sure.
a week, then you pick it up pretty fast. That's what I did.
Was anybody lost at sea amidst the genres? I assume some people would have to come and go in that time, especially in a low-paying job.
You mean among the staff?
Yeah, among the staff making calls, or were they pretty good music heads who liked doing radio work for the most part?
There were certainly people that didn't know a lot about anything. I mean, some people were bright and some people weren't, and there were certainly areas of music I didn't know anything about.
Right.
So I mean, there's no way you could be prepared to pick up the phone and be able to speak intelligently about any record anyone asks about, because it just is impossible.
Sure, but I would imagine some of those genres don't have too many people on the other side that you'd have to talk to anyway.
That's true. But I mean, a lot of people around. I mean, if there was a big bluegrass show coming to Boston, I mean, most people would not go. Most people were rock and roll folks. And you sort of, someone like Del McCurry got people liked him, but I mean, certainly people weren't going down to the coffee houses and watching singer-songwriters. That was not what people were into at all. It's a bunch of guys in their 20s mostly. And
interesting, yeah.
Who were rock and roll people. So, and, Cajun Zydeco, people love that stuff.
Right.
But, none of us were sitting around singing Kumbaya.
Right.
JJ and me used to sneak Ramones CDs down to Folk Alliance when we went, and we'd go up to the room and get a little break.
Did you have any contact beyond, Brad Paul and stuff? Was he pretty much? Did you have any contact at all with the founders? You said.
Yeah, Ken and I certainly. The other two, not so much. I mean, I went to a Red Sox game with Bill a couple times, but certainly, Ken. If you went to IVMA or something, Ken was on your back the entire time. You never got a moment's rest. He was always, pointing at you to go talk to some radio guy or to
okay.
something. So, I went to pretty much all the bluegrass shows. So, I sit near Ken and learn from him and pick up stuff from him.
Right. And was he was approachable, I gather?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. I've gotten to know Ken pretty well, so I think he is. But
he could be. Sort of. I don't know, intimidating. So, he's a kind of.
He can be distant. He can be distant. He can be self-absorbed.
But as far as someone, if you had questions about music, you want to talk about music, he would be.
Right. But there was no real sense among the staff, at least, certainly not you, of what Bill did every day, what Marion did every day. I think I tell you, I've yet to figure out what Marion does every day, if anything.
No one knew what Marion did.
No one knew what she did, you say?
No one knew what she did. She would pop in a meeting sometimes and just sort of, but no, she didn't really seem to have a regular 9-to-5, work ethic. I don't know.
Right.
But Bill was always around, behind his desk, apparently doing work.
Doing something. Okay. Okay. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about changes that came in during your time? That's the big thing I'm interested in the '90s, because I certainly know a pretty whole lot about the Rootsy catalog, but I don't know. A lot of people describe it as Duncan Brown leaving as being a sort of seminal event in the company's history. Now, you worked with him if you started in '93, sure. Right? What kind of guy was he? And I know he was management, but to the extent you want to say,
he was very smart and funny and foul-mouthed and intense. I remember when he took over. I get confused about all the corporate goings on. I don't remember, but at some point when I get all the rep and DNA stuff. I can't keep it all straight in my head.
Right.
But I remember when one of those switches happened, he brought us all into his office for a shot of bourbon or scotch on the way out the door, which was certainly something that a year later would not have happened. It was very Paul Foley,
Right.
That was the older kind of rounder.
Now, is Duncan a real hard music guy himself?
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I didn't sit around and talk music with him, but yeah, I think for sure he is.
Okay. What contact did you... He was the general manager at some point. That was what I understood his job was, at least when he left. Does that ring any bells with you?
Yeah, that's right. I believe before that he was sort of running the distribution.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, I'm getting a little hazy on those details now.
Okay.
But yeah, I didn't work closely with him, but I think people certainly respected him. I mean, he was, a hardworking, intense, smart guy who liked music.
Was he difficult to work with? Was he a difficult boss? Or
I imagine he could have been. He didn't supervise me. So
right. Okay. You were a union guy, right? You would have had to have been a union member?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Did that have any impact on your working life whatsoever? What was the role of the union in Rounder when you were there?
It varied. It was a big deal, and Glenn Jones was certainly the biggest ringleader of that.
Right.
But there was a time, I don't remember what the year was, and actually I've got a folder full of stuff I was looking through to see if I could, trying to jog my memory on things. But there was actually talk of having a walkout or a strike at one point, and we had drafted a letter that was going to go to the trades,
and
which I wrote. So I was fairly active. I was pretty moderate on things. I wasn't ready to, I thought having strikes was pretty silly.
What was the issue?
We just had this contract negotiation that went on forever and ever, and the Rounders weren't really particularly interested in wrapping it up. They had no incentive to. And the feeling was that they weren't negotiating in good faith.
Okay. Was this after Paul Foley came on or prior to that time?
My recollection is that's before Paul Foley.
And who would handle that on behalf of the company, as far as you know? Who would be the point man for the management?
I'm trying to think. I think Mike Annis was one of the people involved in the negotiation.
I don't know that name.
He ran Rounder mail order for a while.
Okay.
And before that, he might have been general manager briefly. I'm not really sure. I'm getting kind of confused.
Okay.
But Bill was, of the 300s, Bill was the one most involved with union negotiations.
And what type of image did he present vis-a-vis the union?
I think he hated the union.
Really?
Yeah.
How did you...
Yeah, it was not friendly negotiations at all. And I wasn't involved usually in the meetings. I think I was briefly on the negotiating team. So yeah, I think we rotated in and out. Although Glenn Jones was a constant.
And what was Bill's demeanor, attitude?
My recollection is that he was, pretty grouchy about the whole thing, and just really didn't have much use for the union, and thought the whole thing was pretty ludicrous. I don't think he thought that, we should be. I think they all thought we were sort of lucky that we had a chance to work at Rounder, and they certainly gave the impression that we were all completely replaceable.
Right.
And that, if we didn't want to do the job, they'd find lots of other people who would do it for those wages, and we should shut up and, be grateful for the job.
How big a raise did you get as a radio guy from your close to minimum wage?
Not much. It took me a long time to even get up to like $10 an hour. I mean, a long time.
To even get 10 an hour?
Yeah.
Oh, what were you making when you left? Was it that?
It was maybe $11 an hour.
Okay.
I know I never made. I started to make $30,000 a year. I was probably in the low 20s by the time I left.
Right. Okay.
Pretty hard living in Boston.
Right. Now, how many people were in the union, say, toward the end? We're talking about, what, 75, 100 employees total? That's everybody. Management, is that...
That might be right. I'm not positive.
Okay.
Funny, as time went on, that was one of the definite trends is more and more people became management. And by the end, it was just ridiculous. There were managers, like I think JJ was a manager who wasn't managing anybody. I think it was partly a way to break the union.
I see. They were managers, they're not union.
Promoted into, management positions, or people would come in from the outside and they would immediately be called managers even if they weren't really.
And they therefore wouldn't be union members?
Right.
Okay. Do you know how many union members there were? I mean approximately at the time of this mild insurgency that...
Particular? No, I would just be a guess just like you,
Okay, okay. All right.
You could call the SEIU office in Boston, maybe.
I've been thinking about it, but I've been maybe later on.
Well, Glenn Jones would know. He'd probably know off the top of his head.
Right. And I did have a long talk with him. I didn't touch upon things like that specifically. It was mostly around his situation with Foley. Do you remember Foley coming on? Well, let me go back. I don't want to even go to him. I don't want to focus on him to the exclusion of others. And I guess a bigger change, in a sense, is John Verrant. Do you remember him coming on board as an intern?
No, he was an intern before I was, but he was the lawyer the whole time I was there up till near the end when he became the big boss.
Okay. So he was on staff when you were there as not as the president. I forget what they're calling him now, CEO or president. I think president. He wasn't president during your time there?
He wasn't very young. Was that 98 maybe that he became president? I'm not sure.
Well, right around then. When I first visited Grounder, which was in June '99, he already had that role. He was called president.
Right.
But I don't know how long prior to that he had it.
I think 98, maybe late 98 or something would be my guess.
Okay. Did you have any sense that he affected the culture at all while he was the lawyer? Or?
No, I don't think anyone thought that much. I mean, he just sort of, looked at contracts and stuff. I don't think anyone else thought he had that much of an effect on the company. He certainly wasn't making, musical decisions or artistic decisions as far as we know.
Right. Was there some sense of surprise when he was promoted into the boss?
Yeah, I think so.
Uh-huh. Now, you were there when it happened, right? Or
yes.
Okay. I mean, did it surprise you personally? Like, where'd this come from?
Yeah, and certainly, no one thought of him as a music guy.
Uh-huh.
So the thought that he was making, musical decisions about who to sign sort of unnerved people, I think.
Somebody told me that, I don't know, about the time we're talking about 99 or 2000, he asked them the difference between old-time and bluegrass music, and I said, did he want to see if you know? And he said, no, he wanted me to tell him.
Oh, I'm sure that's true. And that's probably true of a lot of people. I mean, you could probably go, I would say, the majority of people.
I see.
I mean, Brad Paul could probably give you a pretty decent definition of that, but I wouldn't count on, a lot of people doing that. Like I said, people really were not, folklorists by any stretch.
Was there some sense, you've said that a few times, and I kind of get it, but was there some sense of the company's history? Did people have a respect for or even a real knowledge of the company's history and didn't mean anything to them? Did it matter?
Varied. People like, Glenn Jones and John Bouchard certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the annoying thing with people like that and Bing. People like that who loved the company were sort of shunted out, it seemed.
Uh-huh.
Certainly that wasn't respected. That wasn't something you could show up at your yearly review and say, oh, I know a lot about the company and I really respect it, and that they didn't care about that.
Really? Who would give these reviews? Like in your case, would it be Brad?
In my case, it's Brad, yeah.
I see. And, okay. What kind of boss was he?
I don't think we all respected him. It's funny, the thing about Brad is people that didn't work with him closely maybe didn't like him. I think the guys in the warehouse thought, he can be pretty brusque.
Yeah.
But, if you work closely with him, he worked really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
He was very fair, and, if you screwed something up, he would just, ask you to fix it. He wouldn't go on a tirade and yell at you.
Right.
So he kind of led by example. He certainly wouldn't, the training methods he used were, pretty weird. I started out on a Monday, and he said, well, there's your phone, there's your computer, start working. That was it. So, the first, 2 or 3 weeks were horrifying.
Right.
But, if you survived that, it was okay. And, yeah, he was reasonable. You could go in his office, ask a question. You'd have to be prepared to be on your toes and be quick and not waste his time.
Okay. Did you have a lot of contact with artists, or did they ever?
Yeah, sure. I talked to them daily.
Really? Setting them up in terms of, in terms of setting up radio interviews and things like that?
Yeah, a lot of our artists didn't have managers or anything, so you just talk directly to them.
Okay, and would that be pretty much what it would be about? You got to see this guy in this city, and I've got something.
For the most part.
Uh-huh. Did you ever hear any complaints from them or praise from them about the label, or did they pretty much stay away from that?
I'm sure I did both. I don't know if I heard that much praise. It wouldn't, come up regularly in conversation. They wouldn't just call us to tell us how great Rounder is. But
oh no, I mean in the course of other conversations, normal conversations, that if they. What was the biggest complaint they had? Just that the records weren't getting out there, or?
I guess, certainly the artists who weren't high priorities and knew that we weren't doing much work for them, they would be upset.
Right.
Or an artist where, 2 months after the record came out, we wouldn't really be, we wouldn't consider them a priority anymore. We'd already would have sort of let that one go.
Right.
I remember David Olney had one of those things where we were trying to work his record on the Americana chart, and after about 2 or 3 weeks, it wasn't going anywhere, and we sort of dropped it as a priority. And, he was angry, and understandably so, but...
Sure. And that's, again, a function of the volume of releases, at least partially. Yeah. Well, what was the biggest change, from your standpoint? What really, made you start to feel that there was some change in the weather around Rounder at all?
I guess the big thing is the switch from guys in their 20s who played in rock bands who wanted a day job was pretty much what the entire office was almost. And then picked up people like Dicker, Dunford, all those guys with that JJ.
Mm-hmm.
And then switched to people coming in from major labels, who already had major label experience in New York.
Okay.
Coming in, who didn't have particular interest or affection for what Rounder did.
How many guys? How many of those guys are there? I mean, in significant roles. I mean, Foley's the famous
Foley,
one
Jeff
because
Walker, Foley's wife, whatever her name.
Sherry Sands.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Hansborough, or a woman who is.
I don't know that name.
Okay. It was mentioned to me by somebody with only a last name, and I. Okay.
Those are the big ones, and they were all coming in, and it was just, that was certainly a huge change, because before that, there was, I guess Susan had worked at Antone's before, but
yes.
Definitely, people were definitely from the independent record world. There was no one from a major label, I don't think.
Antone's is funkier than Rounder by far.
Right.
Yeah, always was.
Gail McIntosh came in, who had worked at Valley in California, so she was one of the first people that sort of was a music business person who came to Rounder, as opposed to, a music man who learned enough about the business side to be able to, do their job.
Mm-hmm.
So that was sort of the start of the trend, and then, Paul and Jeff.
Now, what did Jeff do, and what was his?
Geez, what did he do? Something in marketing.
Uh-huh.
And now he's head of publicity. But, yeah, I'm not exactly sure. But he came in quickly and was, bossing other people around, and now there was a lot of resentment about that, because he certainly didn't know. He didn't impress people with knowing a lot about the kind of music we did.
Where had he worked before?
I believe it was he was with Sony's reissue.
The Legacy series? Was it with that Legacy
right.
series, Columbia Legacy?
Yeah, I believe that's what he's doing, sort of publicity for them.
Okay. All right.
I don't think you shouldn't quote me on that. I think that's right, though.
Oh, okay. All right. That's hardly a...
I don't mean it's off the record. I mean, you should make sure it's correct.
I understand what you're saying. Oh, no, I've learned that, believe me.
Yeah.
I have Bill Nowlin telling me about his own past, and things are incorrect, and not in an evil sense.
Right.
He just doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Now, what was Foley's job? He came in, you said he became general manager. He got the title. What did he come in as?
I guess he pretty much replaced Duncan. Is that your record?
Yeah, that's my... I understand. I think he replaced Duncan, and it was a very political thing and led to Duncan's departure.
Yeah.
I think Duncan essentially quit over that. Although it was more... I think he lost a political battle, if you want to call that quitting, okay?
Right.
What type of impression did he make when he came in?
He sort of seemed like a suit to us, He seemed like a business guy.
Okay.
Not the kind of guy you sit around and drink beer with and talk about music. He would be talking about, sound scans and, definitely the music business.
How old are these people? How old is Jeff Walker and Paul Foley, roughly?
Jeff's a young guy. Jeff was maybe, 30 or so when he started.
This would be in the late 90s?
Yeah.
And Foley?
Older, 40s.
Okay. So he's a very different kind of guy, even though the founders are in their 50s. He's a very different kind of guy, I gather.
Oh, yeah, he's not at all like them.
He came in from where? He was in New York. Was it BMG or?
He was one of the majors. I think when Polygram went.
That's it.
Split up and.
Yeah.
A lot of. Yeah, I think he came from there.
That's right. He did. That's right. Okay, so he was a suit who came in. Did he have? I get a sense that there, you could see that there's a lot of chatter that there's a suit and we can't really talk to him anymore and he's less approachable than it would have been. Did it have any more tangible impact in some way? Did what you do change? Did the records change? Did in that sense?
Not immediately. I would say more just the emphasis and just one of the Paul Foley stories I remember is when Bill Morrissey and Lynn Miles did a show together in out in Arlington, I think, and Lynn opened up, and then Bill Morrissey came on, and Paul was in the audience, I think, sitting next to Ellen Karras, who was Bill's wife at the time.
Okay.
But he very much wanted to sneak out and have a little dinner with Lynn Miles, who was younger and better looking and seemed to have more potential, and so he ended up walking out during Bill's set to go take Lynn Miles out to dinner to schmooze her about her slick new pop-friendly record.
Uh-huh.
Which I just thought was just awful. I mean, Bill had been such a important, artist to our company for a long time, and it just seemed typical of the lack of respect for, the history and for the artistry, and chasing after someone who might possibly be the next hot young thing, which we did several times, and it never did work out.
What other artists were you interested in along those lines of the company, if you can remember anything specific?
You mean people that we thought might be...
Yeah, might be...
Paul, I guess.
Uh-huh.
Which didn't work out either. Heather Miles.
Right. Just put out a new record with her, but they worked out some pretty major promotional arrangements for her first Rounder record, didn't they?
We went crazy for that. Yeah, we did everything.
Had some, that was the association with Mercury, right?
Right.
In terms of promotion, and how did that work out? That, not ultimately, but just how did it proceed? Did the Mercury and Rounder coalition mesh well? Or?
It really didn't work.
Yeah.
As far as selling a lot of records, and I would imagine that she was way down on Mercury's, the radio people's priority list.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they didn't tell us that, but I would assume that they were probably talking about their 6 priorities, and then at the end they might mention Heather Miles.
Right, and things between Lynn Miles and what Rounder also ended up going kaput.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't think it's through lack of trying on our part.
Right.
One interesting, I don't know if you ever heard much about the guy before Paul Foley. There's another marketing guy that came in.
Who was that?
Oh, he looked like Alan Jackson. But, I'm blanking on his name. He's hysterical, though. He was a complete... I mean, he didn't ever get a clue at all. And the most famous thing about him is Gail McIntosh snuck into his office and sent out an email from him to the entire staff saying that he was completely overwhelmed and incompetent and couldn't handle the job.
Oh, God.
which a lot of people took seriously, and were sending back these nice responses.
Oh.
But he lasted about 10 months, which was, again, I can't remember his name, but I want to get that. He was pretty interesting.
That's a pretty astonishing stunt to pull.
Oh, and he was one of the first major label guys to come in, too, from outside, and not very well respected.
Okay, but Foley seemingly obviously lasted somehow. What do you attribute that to? I mean, did you see any uptick in sales? Any?
There might have been. I mean, I don't think anyone ever said Paul was incompetent or not qualified. I mean, he's obviously a very bright guy and intense and knows the business. So I wouldn't say he's not qualified to do his job. He probably is. He sure didn't care about. To him, whether some old-time banjo player sold 8,000 records, he did not care. That was completely below his radar,
And why do you say that? I mean, is it just sort of the feeling around the, buzz around the office from people getting feedback on pet projects or things like that, or something you saw? Or?
I suppose. I mean, just, his idea of, getting, thousands and thousands of records into Tower and stuff, and that's what he was focused on.
You said getting thousands of records into Tower?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
The big chains, the big artists. I mean, like that Bill Morsey, Lynn Miles story, I mean, he was looking at, that major label background, trying to break someone big and sell lots and lots of records for someone.
She could be a pop artist,
That's
presumably.
What I thought was,
Yeah. That would put a lot of artists by the wayside. I mean, it would seem to me.
90% of round artists.
Yeah, I mean, really. So, I mean, if that becomes a focus, it fundamentally changes the company. Was there that thought that was what a guy like him wanted, and Jeff Walker?
I guess so, and also in Veron, starting with the Zoe label.
Zoe label, yeah. I
mean, I remember the first time when Zoe started, we had a little off-site get-together we do about once a year, and, I remember Duncan was there. And I asked Duncan, what's up with the Zoe? Because it just seemed that it came out of nowhere.
Right.
It had nothing to do with it. And no one explained to those workers what was going on and why we were doing that. And we didn't know whether, and we assumed the Rounders didn't really have any respect for that music. It didn't seem like it was good records coming out.
Right.
So we couldn't really get much of a description. Duncan sort of, I don't know, he yelled something back at us. I guess Duncan wasn't around much longer for that anyway. But
what did you think he thought of it? Was he behind it, or was
I
it?
doubt he was.
Okay.
But he was, at that point, he was going the company line thing. It's just like any other record. It's good. We're putting it out, and shut up and promote it. So.
Right. Okay. I don't get a sense of a worker-friendly place, except among yourselves. The workers seem to have formed some friendships among themselves, but I don't get a sense of Rounder as a place that was comfortable vis-a-vis employer-employee relationships.
It really wasn't comfortable around, the actual money stuff, the negotiating and the contracts in the union. That was very uncomfortable, I would say.
Okay.
As far as day-to-day stuff, if I ran into Marion or Bill or Ken at the show, they were friendly.
Right.
Reasonably friendly.
Yeah.
Ken certainly was. And
Yeah.
Marion could be very charming and friendly and nice.
Right.
So, I guess different people have different answers. But even someone like Glenn Jones, I think, till close to the end, I think he was so friendly with, Ken, and he could sit around and talk about, flat key guitar records or something.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, I guess you'd get different answers. But there were certainly tense times. And toward the end, yeah, there was some tension, but it wasn't unbearable, I wouldn't say.
Sure. Sure. What was the? You had mentioned to me a publicist who left when we were in Golden
Glenn
Gate.
Dicker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, Glenn, what's his last name?
Dicker, D-I-C-K-E-R.
D-I-C-K-E-R. Why did he leave? He was one of the old school characters, I gather.
He and two other, he was definitely old school. He and a couple of his buddies had started Upstart Records.
Okay.
Which was great, and that's something that we are all fired up about. It was a lot of fun. They had Nick Lowe and
right.
all kinds of good stuff. And Rounder, it was losing money, and Rounder just pulled the plug on that very suddenly. It was a Friday, and they told Chris Cody that his job did not exist anymore and to, clear out his desk.
Who was this? They told
Chris Cody. He was one of the three Upstart guys.
Oh, I see.
And he was pretty much, he had been working for Rounder, but he had pretty much switched to working full-time for Upstart.
Okay.
It was one of the distributed labels for Rounder.
I was going to ask, was that an owned subsidiary or was it distributed?
I think the Rounders might have owned part of it.
Okay.
I believe they did.
Okay.
But yeah, they pretty much, on a Friday, said, okay, clear out your desk. Upstart's over. They just pulled the plug on it completely. So that was, really what Glenn was passionate about, I think. So he and some of his other buddies went down to North Carolina. They have a label called the Yep Rock now, which does a lot of the same things. They got Low Street Jackets back and Nick Lowe back. So.
Okay. And I've seen that name.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it.
They do good stuff.
You were not there when Glenn Jones was let go, were you?
No, it was right after that, but
oh, okay.
I was certainly kept up with it and was, emailing Glenn and got interviewed by the Boston Phoenix for their story.
Oh, were you one of the guys? I have those stories still. I didn't. Were you quoted by name? I don't even remember.
Well, yeah, they didn't use much of it.
Okay, I don't even remember. But what was your take on why that happened? Beyond the Phoenix, if you.
Well, I'm sure they want to get rid of him. He was a thorn in their side forever.
Uh-huh.
And he definitely did devote a lot of time to union stuff and thinking and talking about it. And so all that, they say, is true. And, I guess the main, there at the end, he wanted to get Paul Foley's wife fired. And I guess that was obviously a very unpopular thing for a worker to ask for. That was not the company line.
What was her job?
Again, she got brought in to do some sort of marketing thing, and she was supervising people who knew a lot more about music than she did.
Right.
I can tell you the exact title, but it's some sort of managerial position.
And did it seem to you, as well as most people, that she was promoted because of her relationship with Foley?
Well, I guess on paper, she had, major label experience. I guess she had a resume of some sort.
Right.
Certainly more than, most of us did.
Right.
But, she didn't. At least, at first she didn't know anything about our music. And I remember she didn't know what Prairie Home Companion was. I was getting one of our Prairie Home Companions. She never heard of that.
Oh, God.
But that was about the biggest thing we could hope for a lot of our artists. Get Steve Riley or Del McCurdy on, Prairie Home Companion.
Right.
And her and Foley. That was, it was nothing. If it's not Leno, it's, what's not even worth talking about. So.
What was the issue that Glenn Jones had with her? Was he simply bothered by the whole axis of Foley and Sherry Sands and a change in culture? Was he offended by a lack of experience? Did he,
All that, and then also as, sort of a snub to the union again, someone else coming in from outside. That just kept happening, we traditionally, you could work hard in the warehouse and work your way up and eventually get to be an important person. And after a while, it just became obvious that they were only hiring people from outside. And no matter what you did, they would hire someone from a major label, and they would supervise you, and you couldn't get ahead.
I see.
The unions kept getting weaker and weaker, and more managers were coming in from outside, and it's pretty demoralizing. And Glenn was very much tied in with the union in a way that almost no one else felt that strongly. as he did.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think, rightly so, as the union guy, he was trying all hard to help protect and save the union.
Was the attitude among employees, to the extent you were in touch with it, pretty much that Glenn was shafted?
I think it's something for the older people.
Yeah.
I think the young ones maybe didn't care so much.
Right. Okay.
I know there's, what Brad St. Martin had just come in and taken my place, and I guess there was a big feud after I left because he pretty much sided with the Rounders.
Mm-hmm.
Wrote a letter to the Phoenix defending the Rounders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Horribly unpopular, and there are still people there who won't speak to him from the old guard.
Right.
I was more on Glenn's side just because those were my people. But
yeah, I understand.
But certainly, I mean, I imagine if I were the bosses, I probably would have wanted to get rid of Glenn too. I mean, he was a pain in the ass to them for years and years.
Just because he was, what were his issues? I mean, just promotions, pay, typical kind of bread and butter stuff.
Yeah, just the basics. Yeah, but
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I just think it was just awful that it just got to be the point where there was no getting ahead. You just couldn't win if you were a union guy. You were not going to get promoted. You were not going to get. You had no hope of getting to a position where you could. I'm not being very eloquent, but.
Right. Well, I get the gist. And the interesting thing is that, I guess one line of reasoning would be you could co-opt union guys by making them management, and suddenly they're not in the union anymore.
And then they'd fire them, which they did to Steve Burton.
Uh-huh.
They promoted him to a management position and then canned him.
And who was he?
He was the publicist. After Glenn Dicker left, Steve Burton moved up and became the head publicist.
How do you spell his last name?
B-U-R-T-O-N.
B-U-R-T-O-N,
But
okay.
totally. He goes back almost as far as Glenn Jones, maybe
Okay.
as far as Glenn. He was there,
That's back into the 70s, right?
Record, so he'd be a good guy to talk to.
Okay. Do you know where he is?
He still lives in Boston. I might have an email address or something for him. I don't have it on me, but I can email it to you.
And Glenn Dicker is with Yip Rock in North Carolina.
Yeah, and I do have his information, I think, if you want it before we get off.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. What, if anything, did you see in terms of records you were given to promote? I mean, was there a change from? Was there a change in the releases?
Not so much. I mean, toward the end there were a couple. I mean, we had the Stephen Smith record.
Yeah.
Did you hear about that?
Oh yeah, I saw him live. Not because I went to a show, but because he was at a Rounder South by Southwest. What do you call it? Showcase.
Oh, I see.
At the Continental Club. One year when I happened to be there a few years ago.
One, it was, thanks to John Varant on there, and, John was backing him, and we just thought he was a joke.
Yeah.
He was horrible.
It's a pretty terrible record.
Yeah, and the cover and the whole thing is just ridiculous, and he is just such a clown. What a buffoon that guy is. So that was demoralizing, and things like that would come along, all these, thanks to John Varant, it'd be some piece of crap record. I mean, it was just a trickle. It wasn't like, still, we put out hundreds of records, and most of them were the same old thing. But
right.
That was, starting to realize, well, these aren't going to be Ken Irwin choices from now on. A lot of them are going to be John Varant choices.
Okay.
That was very, there's no reason to be optimistic about that. That wasn't a good sign.
Well, it's gotten really different to things like Juliana Hatfield, which is really far removed from what Rounder was, and that's not even a qualitative assessment. It's just a different type of thing.
The distinction between Upstart and Zoe, because Upstart, was a rock label basically, but it was definitely it connected to Rounder stuff. Ronnie Dawson and Nick Lowe and
okay.
Fit in a way that sort of rehashed 80s college rock.
Did not.
It's just when that came out, just all these sort of mediocre college bands from John Varant's college days. It's like, I love They Might Be Giants too, but
mm-hmm.
them and Juliana Hatfield, and it's just silly. It wasn't a cutting edge alternative label, and it wasn't much anything. It was just a mess. Marky Ramone. It was. Yeah,
that's an interesting one.
And it was funny. And John's back on. John loved Rush.
Uh-huh.
Kind of music he liked. He loved Joan Jett.
Uh-huh.
His real background.
I see.
So there's a lot of griping about that. We used to come out with April 1st record releases every year. We'd print up little record release sheets. So one year we had a Rush record coming out on Zoe. Was one of the jokes we had. So there's some snickering and stuff going on behind his back about that.
Right. I have some other names of people who seem to be kind of been around there for a long time, and I just kind of want to get a sense of where they stand and things if you can. What is Ellen Tainter's role in company?
Big tall girl.
Yeah, big tall skinny girl, pretty girl. Seems to have been there a long time.
Oh, not that long, no. I mean, I think of her as kind of one of the later people still.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know if she's still there. I guess maybe she probably started in '97 or so.
Yeah, okay.
Sort of became the owner's assistant.
Oh, okay.
And then started taking more of a role of, she was sort of handled all the demos that came in.
Right. Okay, but not terribly tied to the Rounder past.
No, she wasn't part of the old guard, and she wasn't. I don't think she was ever in the union. I think she worked so close with owners. I think she was a confidential employee, I think is what they called them, or something like that. But same thing that Jake Grolnick was.
Okay.
So she was not, if there were a battle between the owners and the workers, she probably would have been with the owners.
And some young woman on radio was real talkative in some meetings I went to. Katrina, she had a...
Again, she was right at the very end, too, and she was another one, a major label person who came in.
Is that right? Oh, I didn't even realize that.
She was not at all interested in, bluegrass and folk music at all. She was a major label person who came in and did, like, AAA radio promotion.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But no, she had nothing to do with the old Rounder. She was very much the new Rounder.
Who would, when you left in '99, who was there who you would call the old Rounder?
Oh, John Bouchard.
Okay.
Sure. Steve Burden was still there when I left.
Okay.
JJ.
Right, JJ, sure.
Glenn was still there when I left. Nancy Given, who got fired after I left.
Right.
Those folks, Scott Billington, who wasn't a worker, but certainly he'd been there forever.
Yeah.
Those
Scott kind of is able to go his own way, it seems.
Yeah.
He kind of... I think Scott gets to do what he wants.
Yeah, so those types of people.
What were some of the big records that... I guess your first platinum record was during your tenure.
Yeah, and that was a big year. 1995 was kind of that was a fun year. That was a peak. I could have quit right after that. That was the year they were spending money like crazy.
Really?